I'm Lisa Dahl, Health and Wellbeing Coach, and welcome to Getting Healthy Without Rules. This show is about understanding the things that impact your wellness and finding ways to improve it. This show supports a non-diet, no-rule approach to health and wellness. Health and wellness is a moving target, and we all have different needs and opportunities to improve it. This allows you to make the best choice with the information that you have right now. It allows you to be present, flexible, and resilient. In addition, I support you from shifting from judgment to curiosity and offering yourself self-compassion. It is time that we are all a little bit kinder to ourselves. Today's show is about food and nourishment, and we have a special live demonstration at the end. Food, we all have to eat, yet it is one of the most complicated things that we have to do to survive. Along with eating, there are many opinions about what we eat, what others choose to eat, which makes it all very complicated and directly impacts our health and well-being. A non-diet, no-rule approach to health and wellness is important because when one specifically chooses a way to eat and then breaks that rule, they no longer measure up to that self-imposed label. For that reason, I love to use the word I prefer. An example for today's show is because we are going to be talking about a plant-based diet, is I prefer a plant-based diet, but I am also willing to eat chicken because I live with other people, and to be able to get through the week creating and cooking different meals, the ability to be flexible is really important for how we manage our meal planning throughout the week. Because we are talking about food, I want to make sure we don't fall into the diet trap and that you believe that this is the only one way to eat. As I always state in the show, health and wellness is a moving target, and we all need to be present, flexible, and resilient and make the choices that fit you at any given time. In today's episode, we're going to dive deeper into plant-based eating, and we're going to talk about what is plant-based eating, what is the difference between being vegan and vegetarian, what are the benefits of plant-based eating, what to do when you live with omnivores, and tips for making a plant-based meal easy. Be sure to stay to the end for a demonstration because my guest, Laura, is going to walk us through building a delicious plant-based bowl. So today, I am privileged to introduce you to my friend and colleague, Laura Klein. As a chef and culinary coach, Laura focuses on the challenges of maintaining a healthy lifestyle and healthy home cooking. Through her business Well-Seasoned Coaching, Laura partners with lifestyle medicine practices to create and deliver healthy, fun cooking classes that focus on culinary medicine techniques and tools. In addition, Laura is faculty for the Clinician's Chef program at Harvard University, teaching healthcare providers how to teach their patients to cook at home, and co-developed and teaches the plant-based cooking series at the Cambridge School of Culinary Arts. Laura is passionate about cooking, eating, and helping people maintain a healthy lifestyle and is always ready to talk about food. As soon as I met Laura, I knew we shared a passion for cooking, a preference for plant-based eating, and how we support our clients through their health and well-being. Laura, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Lisa. I'm so happy to be here.
So tell us, why do you prefer a plant-based diet?
Well, honestly, it just makes me feel better when I eat that way. And I just love teaching people about all the different ways that they can eat healthy. I mean, like you said before, I'm all about whatever works for you. So I try to meet people where they're at and then teach them like all the benefits of eating more plant-based. I would say plant-forward is the way I like to talk about it.
That's an interesting term. So it gives people the opportunity to grow into it versus having to flip that switch and decide this is what I'm doing today.
Exactly.
So what have you learned with time? What are the benefits of a plant-based diet?
Yeah, so first I would just want to explain. So plant-based means eating things that like grow in the ground, on trees, things that like your grandmother would recognize, right? So fruits, vegetables, grains, legumes, some nuts, seeds, things like that, dairy. People always think it's just like a plant, but there are so many options, right, when you're talking about plant-based food. And there's so many health benefits to eating that way too. So for example, your heart health, your brain health, your gut health, your blood pressure, there's just your mood. There's just so many benefits to eating more plant-based, which doesn't mean like just eliminating everything from your diet. It's just eating more plants.
It's adding in versus taking away.
Exactly, exactly. I like to think of it that way.
And the beauty of the colors, that's the thing that always attracts me,
Oh, yeah.
is that when you sit down to eat and the colors of the fruits and the vegetables, they're so vibrant and they just draw your attention to the eating experience.
We like to say eat the rainbow.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
What is the difference between vegan and vegetarian?
So I think that there's so much confusion about this, and there's so many different terms out there. So I like, it's like a spectrum. And I like to think of it as being like a flexitarian, meaning that, all foods fit. And if you just think of one like kind of concept is make half of your plate fruits and vegetables. If you do that, you're going to be healthier right from the start. And also, if you cook more at home as opposed to going out, you're also going to be healthier. So if you just did like those two things, you're on the right track. You don't have to, like you said, flip a switch and totally revise your diet or revamp what you're doing at home.
But what is the difference between the term, like somebody who is there a difference between vegan and vegetarianism?
Yeah, there is. So vegetarian traditionally is just eating like all vegetarian, all vegetables, fruits, legumes, grains, and also dairy. So like milk and eggs. And if you're a vegan, you would not eat the eggs or the milk. You would just eat the fruits and the vegetables. And then there's like pescatarian, people who eat, fish. And like I said, there's all different ranges, but that's like the strict definition.
And what are your thoughts on, I know that you're a huge proponent of whole foods. Mm-hmm. When we start getting into the vegan and some of the vegetarian foods, often they're processed foods.
Right.
Just because you're vegan or vegetarian and it has that label, it doesn't make it healthy.
Oh my gosh, exactly.
So tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so I think you really have to be kind of like a detective. Yes, were you going to say that?
Yes.
Because just because it's labeled vegan or just because something's labeled organic doesn't mean it's healthy. These are like marketing terms that people abuse when they want to kind of draw people in. So you really need to read the label. So the less ingredients something has, the healthier it is, just in general. So think of like an apple. There's no label on there. It's just an apple. But once you start to get like apple chips or apple juice or, something that's been processed, you're automatically going to be adding in other things. So you want to be really cognizant of how many ingredients are in a product. The less ingredients, the better, generally speaking.
So just because you're vegan or vegetarian, it doesn't make these processed foods magically healthy.
Right.
And I try to stay away from the good food, bad food, and it's more about being discerning and understanding the choices and how those foods make you feel.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What are some easy ways to start eating plants or plant-based?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is find your why. Okay, so this is kind of like an exercise. I know you like to do those. And so I call it setting your culinary vision. Ooh. So there are so many different reasons why you'd want to eat more plant-based. So healthier, you're definitely going to be healthier. You're going to feel better. You're going to maybe lose weight just by the nature of eating more plants. You're going to maybe live longer. It's better for the environment. It might be less expensive. There's so many ways that you can choose why you want to eat more plants. But what I say for each person I'm working with is, find your why. Why is it really important to you? So a lot of times people say, oh, well, I want to, lose 10 pounds. And I'll say to them, well, what will losing those 10 pounds do to your life? How will you feel? Why is that important to you? So you get beyond like just the labels, the superficial, and really like what matters to you about this. So for me, I wanted to eat more plant-based because I want to be healthier and I want to be there to see my grandchildren and to be able to play with them and to feel good. And I also love that feeling that I get when I'm eating healthy. I just don't feel bogged down. I have more energy. I can work out more. I can be out in nature. I just feel better. And I think it just shows in, your whole energy level.
And part of the process, like part of cooking it, like the beauty of using those fresh fruits and vegetables and grains and adding those in, it just, when it lands on your plate, it has such a different aesthetic appeal.
Absolutely. So I say find your why, and then you can choose what you want to do. But if you're not like if it doesn't really matter to you, then you shouldn't do it. You should do it because you really want to.
It's finding that intrinsic motivation.
Yeah, exactly.
Because the pounds may or may not happen. And that's not the part that's actually going to make you healthy. It's the actions of what you're choosing, your choices and your behavior that's going to make a difference in the long run.
Yeah.
Can you provide some practical tips for incorporating plant-based options when you are eating out or traveling? Because that's one of the things that people kind of get stuck on as, well, I can do it when I'm home. What do I do when I'm outside of my box?
Yeah, so I would say, well, first of all, I always bring food with me wherever I am. Like even if I'm like going on a plane or whatever, because I like to know what I'm eating. Not because I'm a control freak, but I just want to have some options. So I might bring like some healthy snack bars that I make. I make them, but you can buy them. And again, the less ingredients, the better. I always have bottled water with me. And when I go out, I try to ask like, how is that food prepared? Just so that you know, and you can then decide, do I want to make some changes? And when you go out these days, they're so flexible. Like every restaurant I've gone to, if I ask for them, like I would like to substitute something for the meat, do you have can I have extra vegetables? Can I have an extra salad? Things like that. And I find that people are really accommodating, especially these days.
I would absolutely agree. My kids always used to cringe, or, they probably still cringe, because I am definitely one of those high maintenance people when I go out to eat, in that I love to eat, I love delicious food, and I've let a lot of my food rules go, and I still prefer certain things. So if there's a pasta dish, I still prefer zucchini noodles, vegetable noodles over that, just because it makes me feel better in my body. Right. What happens when you have growing children or other people in your home that are carnivores and are craving meat, and you want to respect that, and you still need to put food on the table?
Yeah.
What do you do?
Well, there's a couple of ways that I would address that, depending, again, on how young your other people are. So one of the ways is you can cut the amount of meat that you're eating with vegetables. So, for example, we make like these veggie burgers. Well, they're not veggie. They're like half like ground meat and half like zucchini, like you were talking about, where you can just grate some zucchini. So you can kind of cut the amount of meat that's in like a meatball in half and kind of, integrate it that way. And maybe you can tell them about it, maybe not. It just depends, but it's an easy way to kind of cut that back.
Yep.
The other option is to do like let's say a taco bar, where you have the meat out there, but you also have all these other options. So, if you want to eat totally vegetarian, you can do that. If other people want to do half and half, they can do that. Whatever works for people, but I like to give people options.
Yeah, that's definitely something that we do a lot in my house, where, I will eat fish, but I just don't prefer to eat meat. And when you have all the base plant-based, everybody's happy there, and then they can pick their proteins that will satisfy their needs.
Absolutely.
And what's really interesting is that at different times in your life, there's different stages. You're going to crave different things, where what worked today might not work tomorrow, or you might be more willing to shift and bring in something different. So it's trying to not be so stuck wherever you are today and say, this is the only way that I eat, and to be open of what else is out there.
Absolutely.
Something else that's common, or part of a common discussion, is can you get enough nutrition from simply plant-based? And I know you're not an RD, and just like I'm not a nutritionist, and I still want to address that conversation a little bit.
Right. Well, we get that question all the time. I say we, because I teach healthy cooking classes to a number of different, populations, and I work with a number of physicians, and that's always a question that comes up. And the answer is, if you eat a plant-based diet that has healthy plant-based protein, and all the other vitamins and minerals are going to be in all of those plant-based foods that you're eating, you can absolutely get all the nutrients that your body needs.
What do you say to the commentary that our food does not have as many nutrients as it used to have? And can you really get the nutrition today? Because people say, our soil has changed. What is that conversation looking like? And I don't know that can you answer that? Do you have an opinion on that at all?
I mean, I'm not,
I know you're not an expert, we want to clarify that we're not a scientist, but just what you're hearing, what you're seeing. What would you say to somebody who asked that question?
I mean, I would say that the answer that I know is yes, you still can. I mean, if you don't live in like a food desert, but if you live, where there is food that's grown, there's farmers markets, there's produce at your local market. From what I know, that you can still get all the nutrition that you need, and we don't have to worry about that. At least not now. Thank goodness.
And in my non-professional scientific opinion is, that's the stance that I take. Mm-hmm. But I know that it is a question that always comes up when I'm talking about plant-based food, and I just was interested in your professional opinion. I often hear, I don't have time to cook. Mm-hmm. What are some tips and strategies?
Yeah, that's the number one objection to cooking that I hear at home. And when I teach my healthy cooking classes, the number one thing I say is to be organized, because most people, if they want to cook something, they're going to go and they're going to cook like one meal. So I say, think about your time and maximize it. So if you're going to plan to cook, like pick a day, pick an hour, pick a couple hours, make a couple of different recipes so that you have it for the week. Prep your ingredients. We're going to talk about that in our demo, how you can have things already prepped and they're ready to go, so that if you don't have time to prep them, you can buy them pre-prepped. Like nowadays, you can buy like so many vegetables, chopped, minced, however you want to use them, and all the work is done for you. All you have to do is put them together. So I really encourage people to do whatever works for you. There's no shame if you buy something pre-prepped. Frozen fruits and vegetables are a great thing to buy because they're packed at the peak of freshness. So like, during the year when maybe you don't have tomatoes, you can use frozen tomatoes. Just look at the label and make sure that there's not a lot of added preservatives. But there shouldn't be. It should just be the vegetable or the fruit.
I love how you just took the shame away of people needing to use frozen fresh fruits and vegetables, that there is nothing wrong with it. Mm-hmm. Somewhere along the way, we have thought that it's not good enough or it doesn't meet the same standard. Yeah. There's different foods for different reasons, and we all need to make different choices based on what's available. Right. And the organization is really where meal planning starts, and not to be one and done, always thinking about how you can repurpose, how can you put this in. The other thing is, so-and-so doesn't like to have leftovers. You can recreate those leftovers. Can you give me an example of that?
Yeah, so you could take something like, let's say, and we like to talk about it like breakfast for lunch for dinner. So if you take your breakfast and make it dinner. So let's say you make shashuka for breakfast. Maybe you didn't make it for breakfast. It might be a little more, than
or even if you brought it home leftover shashuka.
Yeah, so then you have like this delicious tomato-like sauce that you can then repurpose and put it over pasta for dinner, and add some greens to that. And then you have like a salad, and, you can just take different items and not just use the exact same way, but recreate them into another purpose.
Yeah, I call it menu mapping. Like, here's your main thing, and then you just kind of offshoot where all the different things that it can go into, and you have a new creation with less work. Mm-hmm. And when you have that organization, you're actually creating more time later in the week.
Absolutely, yes. And the other thing I love to do is batch cooking.
Yes.
So batch cooking is making, like, instead of making a cup of brown rice, make the whole bag, and then you can use it in the recipe that you're making that night, or you can repurpose it over the course of the week. You can freeze it. Like, I like to freeze it in like 1 cup increments, and I put it in the freezer and I label it, and that way I can just pull one out.
You're a woman after my own heart. We're talking our language.
Yeah, I don't recommend like freezing like,
block.
5 cups and then you thaw it out and then you have to throw it away. So.
Yeah, one of the other tips that I find super helpful is that if there's a recipe that calls for lots of different spices or herbs, to create your own little spice jar, so that if it's something that you make all the time, you don't have to take out the 10 different spices. You can just put it all together and then sprinkle it in.
Right. Absolutely.
What does a well-stocked plant-based pantry look like?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you asked that. We were talking about spices. So I love to cook with spices, and I love having a variety, but I always recommend, if you're not used to that spice or you want to just try it, buy the smallest amount possible so that it stays fresher. So especially with spices, and also herbs too. So herbs and spices are great to have in your pantry and in your fridge as well. Lots of legumes people always ask, what's a legume? So a legume would be like a plant-based protein, like beans, like chickpeas, black beans, navy beans, kidney beans, like any kind of bean. You can buy them dried, you can buy them canned. Again, no shame buying them canned, makes it easy. Just take off the top, rinse them off and use them. Lots of like lentils I love as well. Those are a great source of plant-based protein. And then your grains, so whole grains, I always recommend. Quinoa is a complete protein. I love brown rice, short grain brown rice is really delicious. And then there's farro and teff, and I'm going to show you a
those
lot
nutty
of different
flavors.
Yeah,
It's so
buckwheat, bulgur. There's so many delicious grains. So my pantry is always stocked with legumes and whole grains. And then your fridge, fruits and veggies.
And what's nice about those pantry, they're all shelf stable, that you can buy in bulk, that you can have those things so that no matter, even when there's no food in your house, there's still food in your house.
Absolutely. And again, if you batch cook, then you have it in your freezer already cooked, or you have it in your pantry and it's just ready to go. And nowadays you can buy like the ones that are quick cooking. So yeah, a 10-minute farro instead of like 40 minutes.
Okay, we'll have to look for that. Right. Well, we are going to take a quick pause as we set up for our demonstration on how to build a healthy bowl. Let's dive in, and Laura, let's start with build a bowl. Okay. I'm going to let you take over from here.
Okay, great, Lisa. Thank you. So this is like my all-time favorite. I'm all about building healthy bowls and teaching people how to do that, because when you go to one of those like bowl places or the salad places and people think, oh, I'm getting a healthy a healthy dinner or a healthy meal. And they load up on all the salad food and then they put on like a ton of dips and dressings and toppings, and they turn like what is a healthy bowl into like a big calorie bomb.
So it's important to understand the balance of what you're building.
Yes. So I'm going to teach you how to build a healthy bowl. BYOB. So it's so fun. And what I love about this, if you just look at this spread, look at the colors, and it's all about kind of like going into your refrigerator and seeing what you have that you can repurpose. So remember we were talking before about like how do you make meal planning easier? So meal prep is just like cutting up some veggies that you have. A lot of this just came from my fridge. It's what I already had. Excuse me. So we're going to start with the base, the foundation of our bowl, which is leafy greens. So I have here some arugula, and what I did is I tossed it with a little bit of lemon juice and some salt and pepper, because you want to season your base first so that you end up using less dressing because it's already seasoned. So what I like to do is just take some of these seasoned greens and you can just put them in. So that's going to be your base layer of your bowl.
Yum.
And I like to talk about remember we talked about half of your plate being fruits and vegetables. So this is a great start. And then we're going to work on our grains next. So I have here, this is some farro, which is a great whole grain that I cooked with apple cider and a bay leaf.
That was the new tip that I had not heard. So I'm super excited to taste that. And tell me about the flavor of farro, because people don't know how delicious it is. How would you describe it?
Yeah, so it's like a little nutty, okay, and it has a texture, it's like kind of al dente, we call it. So it has a little bit of a bite to it. It's a little chewy. It's just a little earthy, and the nuttiness is what I really like about it. It's kind of like a sweet and nutty. And when you cook in the apple cider, it's even sweeter.
It's one of my favorite grains, so I'm super excited to taste that. And this was an example of what can be stored in your refrigerator and frozen in portions.
Absolutely. So why don't you just take a scoop. So we're looking at like maybe a third of your bowl is going to be this healthy grain. And I also want to mention here some other healthy grains. So we had talked about that. So I have here bulgur. So bulgur is a great whole grain, and this is something that is really easy to cook because it's already partially cooked. It's like par cooked, and it's cracked. So it takes all you need to do is put hot water over it, and it's hydrated and ready to eat.
So that's great for somebody who's on the go, coming home last minute, needs to throw dinner on the table. That is a quick, easy staple.
Absolutely, and also to bring when you're traveling. So you could have it for breakfast. I make a great bulgur breakfast bowl, which is delicious with fruit in it. Instead of like an oatmeal. Yeah. So
because there's typically the hot water, the coffee pot in a hotel room, so you can just use it for
this.
that.
Yeah.
Great.
So we have bulgur, short grain brown rice. I love this. Again, like chewy. It's better. I like it better. I shouldn't say it's better. I like it better than long grain brown rice. It cooks faster, and about half the time it's chewier, and I think it keeps you like full longer. It makes me feel full longer. So I love this. This is a great staple. This is the farro. Again, I mentioned they have quick cooking farro now, so
yeah, that I didn't know. So
in like a third, and then quinoa, which of course is all the rage right now because it's a complete protein, really easy to cook, and it takes on the flavor of whatever you cook it with.
Do the colors matter? Because sometimes you see the all white, sometimes it's multicolored. Does that make a difference?
Not really. I mean, there's maybe a slight taste difference. For me, it's more visual.
That's
I
why I
like the multicolored. Yeah, it looks so pretty. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my portion of this farro, and you can heat it up too, but I like it at room temperature. So next up, we're going to look at our healthy plant-based protein. So I have a couple of options here. So this is some tofu that I have cooked. I kind of made a glaze with some soy sauce, maple syrup, or you could use honey, a little sesame oil, and some sesame seeds. And then you just roast it in the oven, and it's like really delicious. And if you roast it a little bit longer, it gets nice and crunchy, almost like croutons.
Yum. So question about the tofu. Do you have to press the tofu to get rid of the moisture?
Yes. If you want it to be crunchy, yes, you definitely need to do that.
Because that's important. So people don't understand, why is my tofu like mushy or it doesn't have any crunch or shape to it? The trick is about the pressing and removing the moisture.
Yes, and also start with extra firm tofu.
Yes.
Yes. So I just want to show you the protein choices. So I have here the tofu. This is some chickpea like mock tuna salad that I kind of mixed with the ingredients that you would mix for tuna salad, like some shallots and some celery and some fresh dill and pickles that are chopped up. So it has like this delicious salty taste to it. And then instead of mayonnaise, I used yogurt, so Greek yogurt. So that's the chickpea salad. And then just some hard-cooked eggs. So these are some examples of some plant-based protein. I also have some other examples here. So these were the canned beans we talked about. You can buy them fresh or canned. This is so easy to use. Just rinse them off before you use them. Black beans. These are some Great Northern beans, chickpeas, my friend's chickpeas, and then some legumes here, which are the lentils. So I love lentils because they're such a great source of protein. And also, if you get these red lentils, these are the easiest to cook.
They cook fast.
They take like 5 minutes to cook. And you can also overcook them purposely and almost make them like a creamy base that you can like add to soups without adding any extra cream. Yeah. So love these. And then you can go up the spectrum. There are brown lentils, which take a little longer to cook. These are a little crunchier. And then the black lentils, which we call like the caviar of the lentil family, these are little small ones. They retain their shape and they look beautiful and they add a lot of color and they're delicious as well. So those are some other examples.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
Beans. People often say beans don't agree with me. How do you help people introduce beans into their diet?
Right. Start slow. That would be my number one recommendation. You don't want to just start eating all beans, and gradually introduce them and see how you react to them. That would be my number one tip. So next up, so pick your protein, or you can do
I want to have a little bit of
multiples.
everything.
Okay. So again, like about a third of your plate, we want to be our protein. So this is again like not overdoing it, right? Because we want to have it be delicious, but we don't want to do too much. So I'll take a couple of these as well. And again, you can heat this up if you like, or you can keep it room temperature, whatever you like. And you can just make them plain. You don't have to put all these things on there. You can just roast it in the oven with a little bit of oil and some salt and pepper. That would be delicious as well. So whatever works for you. I'll take
Mix
a little bit
and
of this.
match.
Yeah. Did you get some of this?
I took a little bit of everything.
And my chickpeas always pop out of the table. Okay. So there we have like about a third of our plate is our protein. And now comes the fun part. So now all of these veggies, which I love, this is where you can add color and texture and taste. So go crazy with the veggies. And I also have some cooked vegetables here. So I have some roasted beets, which I absolutely love roasted beets. They're like candy. And some roasted white sweet potatoes. Again, they add like a delicious.
This is, I mean, I feel like a kid in a candy box. And the fact that somebody else made it, cut it, chopped it, and it is beautiful, I am so excited.
So grab your spoon
I'm gonna
right
grab
there.
my spoon.
And yeah, take what you like.
Oh, I'm taking a little bit of everything.
And what's so fun about this too is you can make this like a family activity, right? You put this stuff out and people can just pick what they want. It's fun. It's like, you know, creates a little, I don't know, it's like a food adventure.
It is. I'm just noticing the different tastes, the textures, the crunch.
Yep, absolutely. And the color, right? Remember,
Oh,
we're talking about eating with your
beautiful.
eyes and not just your stomach. So I've got the veggies here, and then fruit also. Remember, we talked about fruits and veggies. So I love fresh fruit. So whenever I can, I always like to get in some fresh fruit. Dried fruit is also an option. So I have here some blueberries. So we can add some of those in there and some strawberries. So pick whichever fruit you like if you want fresh fruit or not.
I added it all.
Okay. So there's the fruit. So you can go crazy with the fresh veggies. So then I like to talk about toppings. So toppings is where you can add texture and taste and temperature. You can add crunch. You can add some zing. So I'm looking at avocado here. This is going to add some healthy fat. These are some pickled jalapeno.
Ooh.
And I have a recipe. This will all be included in my buildable guide.
Yes, we will share the link on how to get that because you are not going to want to miss that.
Yeah, so this is through my team at New Cook, and we'll show you how to make a quick pickle really easy in half an hour. I also have here this nut mixture with pistachios and some
This had an amazing...
Yeah. It's actually called dukkha. So it's like a Middle Eastern mix that has like sesame seeds and coconut and pistachio and lots of Middle Eastern spices in there. It's really delicious.
And this is something that you can make and store for a little bit.
Oh yeah, I've had this for like 6 months.
Perfect.
And you can give it as a gift too. It's like perfect, right?
Those are
love
perfect
love
gifts.
It. So, so pick your toppings, but again, you don't want to go crazy with these. These are just to add a little, you know, a little texture and taste and crunch. So we have our cheese, we have our avocado.
I was a step ahead of you and already added the avocado and the cheese, but this is right up my alley.
And then I did put there are some seeds in here, so you just want to be mindful. I love crunch and I love spice, so I'm not.
All right,
that doesn't
spice level is something I'm cautious about, but I'm willing to give it a try. So I'm adding
just a little.
one. So
and just a little.
Because I want to taste everything.
Okay, and then so sprinkle on a little of the seeds if you want. We have a little bit of feta cheese here.
I've got that already.
All right, wow, look at this.
I'm ahead of the game.
Beautiful. And then the last thing we want to add is our dressing. So I have here, this is some tahini. So it's just tahini, lemon juice, water, a little bit of salt and pepper. If you want to put, you can put some garlic in there, whatever you like. Now here's the key where a lot of people kind of overdo it. So what I like to do is just put like about a tablespoon of dressing on at a time. And I even have a tablespoon here just to make it easy. But just to show you, like if you just drizzle this on, you don't need a whole lot. You can do 2 tablespoons, whatever you want, but just to be mindful that you don't just take your beautiful, healthy salad and just pour dressing on top.
And you get a more balanced flavor of all the tastes
Absolutely.
when you use it as a complement versus just,
right, the main event.
The main event. I'm going to steal some of this.
Go ahead, grab that. And then lastly, the last thing that I usually do is, season it with a little salt and pepper. Seasoning means adding some salt. So salt is going to heighten the flavor of your food. But what a lot of people do is they just like kind of put the salt on before they even taste it. So I always recommend taste your food first and then see if it needs more seasoning. Right?
Yes, absolutely. So
let's give it a try.
Okay.
So we can go ahead. You can mix it up if you want.
I don't even know where to start. I'm going for the tofu.
I'm going to start right in the middle.
I'm going for the tofu.
Okay. See what you think. Oh my God. Right?
So good.
So many different. It's like a flavor bomb in your mouth. So I have some kosher salt here, which is very concentrated, nice and flaky. So I'm just going to sprinkle just a little bit there, just to heighten the flavor a little bit. And some fresh ground black pepper.
And do you have a preference over the type of salt? that
like
you're
the
using?
kosher
You
salt.
like the kosher salt.
Yes.
What about the pink Himalayan salt?
That's great too. It's a little more, it's a little harder to find and maybe a little more expensive. So I always recommend the kosher salt. It's very chefy because you can really feel it in the hands, your texture, and you can give it like that nice dash.
That little touch.
Yeah, exactly. Make you feel like a professional chef. But this is what I call like a beautifully well-balanced plate. So we have mostly fruits and vegetables. A quarter or a third of our plate is the whole grains. And about a third or a quarter is our healthy protein. And then we have just a little drizzle of our dressing, which is our healthy fat, and just a little sprinkling of all of our extras.
And this is perfect for lunch, for dinner. You can use some of those grains for breakfast. There's multi-purpose. And for those that do have meat eaters, you can just add a simple protein of chicken or fish, whatever you want to do, that it's not all or nothing. And it is about trying to figure out what is best for you and to start moving your plant-based eating forward a little bit at a time.
Absolutely.
So today we have talked about the benefits of plant-based eating and how to use a vision plan to be able to create a more plant-based eating paradigm in your home. I can't stress enough how helpful it is when working to improve your wellness to have a vision of what you want your future best self to be. If you want to continue the conversation, be sure to check in on my website for my free office hours, my free conversations. I'm calling them Let's Talk About, and it is about talking about what you are seeing here, carrying on those conversations. Send me emails with your questions, what you want to see. If you're having challenges, how can we turn those into gifts and opportunities to have you moving forward in your health and wellness? Please check in next time for Getting Healthy Without Rules.